Okay, today's January 26th, it's 5:30 p.m., so it's time for monthly meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority. My name's Juan Mariscal, and I'm the acting chair of the board. We have a pretty good agenda, so we're going to get going through it pretty quickly. First, we have a new member on the board, which was appointed by the town of Barrington, Stephen Gross, and I'd like to introduce him. He's sitting over here to my left, and ask Stephen to say a few words, and after he has said a few words, like the board members, just to go around the table and just say who they are, because your name tags are all looking out that
Turning
way.
the other way.
Stephen.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see all your names, but I'll try to know all your names. I'm excited to work with all of you and help guide the authority into a better future, even though it seems like we're already on the right path to begin with. So just a little about myself. I've been in Barrington for 6 years now. I live there with my wife and 2 young kids. My oldest will be starting elementary school in a couple of years. So a little about my education. I'm a University of Rhode Island alumni. I have an undergraduate and master's degree in accounting there. I work for a public accounting firm as a certified public accountant. I have my CPA in both Mass and Rhode Island. I work there as an insurance manager, and my primary focus on state and local government work. So pretty much towns and cities in Rhode Island, as well as the state of Rhode Island. So I'm very familiar with what the authority uses for accounting, because it's all I do every day. So hope I can help bring a different perspective to the financials. Other than that, I'm just excited to work with all of you, including management as well.
Well, welcome. And Tom, I'm sure you know each other, but just give your name and rank and serial
Yes, we
number.
were chatting
on the
already.
table.
Welcome, Stephen. I'm also obviously a Barrington representative. Been on the board 4 or 5 years now, and been in Barrington. It will be 34 years this summer, which still leaves me a newcomer as Rhode Island standard goes. And retired attorney. And also involved as chair of the Barrington Zoning Board and my church finance committee. So I see money on the one side and public hearings on the other side. So this is sort of a meld of the two. Which way are you going on?
I'm George Champlin, been a member of this group about 4 or 5 years, live in Barrington, retired from working in the investment field. Enjoyed being on the board and whatnot, and look forward to working with you. I chair the finance committee, so hopefully we'll see one another, or maybe you'll be on the committee too.
Gina McDonald from Bristol, and I worked in financial services for years. I do technology consulting and investments.
Bill Goslin from the town of Warren, been on the board since 2007. Educated when Johnson & Wales was a college. I went to the night school there, hospital service, and I enjoy what we do here each and every month.
Bob Warren. I'm a carpetbagger at Bristol. I wasn't born on a kitchen table. My last job I had, I was the fire chief in Bristol. So I knew where the fire hydrants were, so they said I can come on the board. It's an enjoyable experience.
John Janetto from Warren. And I know I don't look it. Now, since the retirement of Alan Clipper, I'm now the senior member of the Bristol County Water Authority.
Look younger than me.
Whoa.
Chris Daly, representing Warren. I'm just a school teacher. I sat on the council for a number of years, so they kicked me over here.
And you know our director.
That's about
Yeah, I met Stephen came in so last Friday.
Yeah.
And we had a nice conversation, kind of brought him up to speed on everything that we're doing here at the authority.
I'm Juan Mariscal, also a URI graduate 2 times. And I retired from water and sewer engineering and planning and regulation and such for various public agencies around the state. So with those introductions out of the way, we'll go into the agenda. The first item on the agenda, item 2, is public input. Is there any members of the public who want to bring up an issue today? Yes, sir. Could you identify yourself and what town you're from?
Yes, I'm Pete Hewitt, I'm from Bristol. I saw recently where the board or the authority intended to increase the rates to 6% by next year. And I'm concerned about that from the standpoint of Pam Marchant, former executive director, had forecasted an increase of 4% per annum for any number of out years going forward because of the infrastructure and primarily because of the cost anticipated in hooking up to the Pawtucket water source as our redundant source in addition to the Situate Reservoir source of water. And I'm wondering, could somebody explain to me why all of a sudden now the 4% forecasted increase is now going to be 6%, which is significant? That's my concern.
Can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, let me just say that I'm glad you're here, Peter. We did have a public hearing a half hour ago, and we just closed the public hearing. Was receptive to your comments here at the board meeting, and we have a section on the agenda for that. I'll ask my director to go and I'm going to ask my fellow Bristolian to respond to it first, and then we'll have our director also address the issue. But keep in mind, forecasts are forecasts. And things that happen in the past don't necessarily reflect what has happened in the
Very much
future.
appreciate that.
Which is in the future, which is now the present. So things change. But
So
Gina.
Pete, when Pam did that forecast, I was at the losing end of a vote to suggest a higher rate increase because in the world I come from, it's better to get a higher increase and then find out that you're pleasantly surprised if costs go down, as opposed to having a 4% proposal out however many years and finding that inflation is running at 8% and we need a 6% increase. So our 6% increase was structured with that in mind, with the idea that if in fact costs do not continue to go up and if East Providence comes in to pay their share, we can drop the rate increase in future years. But this is a system that had historic underinvestment in improvements in infrastructure. And when we projected out a 4% increase, it was not sustainable.
Can I comment? One of my concerns is we've been talking about tying into Pawtucket for years. And I guess one of my concerns is East Providence had for the longest time not agreed to participate in sharing the cost of that tie-in.
They've agreed at this point, but we've yet to see their money.
Well, my question is, have they agreed to participate?
They have.
And if they have agreed to participate, to what extent are they bound by that promise?
This is on our website, and it walks through in detail exactly what we're doing and where things stand. But until we have a signed agreement approved by the city council and their first check, with you.
What is the status of that? What is the status of that agreement?
Yeah, Steve should
What's
speak
taking
to
too
that.
long here?
the questions you're asking are all great questions. We did have the public hearing and our director gave a PowerPoint presentation. Gina just made a reference to it and it's on the website, has been on the website for 2 weeks. And you're here now, we want to have your questions answered. But in all fairness, we had a public hearing. But we're going to
Which I
answer.
didn't know about, but that's all right, that's my fault.
We're going to answer your questions. And some of them are in the PowerPoint presentation talking about where the project stands, what East Providence has agreed to, how much money they've agreed to at this point, and what phase of the projects that they would agree to. So.
It's also on our website.
Yeah, it's on the website. But I'll have Steve give you a thumbnail sketch of the important points that you're raising, because they are good points.
Yeah, and just briefly, I know there's this discussion of the Pawtucket pipeline. You say it's been ongoing for so long, right? And it had. First of all, it's a very complex project for one. But I should note that we did complete phase one of the Pawtucket pipeline connection, and that was our connection to the East Providence system. So we now have a connection, we both have our own independent pipelines that go under the river. Those two pipelines are not connected with a pipeline connection, okay? And now we have a pipeline that goes all the way up to Kent Heights and East Providence. The next step is under design, and that's to go from the Kent Heights storage facilities in East Providence to the Pawtucket town line. It's 5 miles, 30-inch main through mostly state highway, Pawtucket Avenue. It's the most direct route. We just completed recently the 30% design. East Providence has signed commitment agreements to cost share in that design, which is not insignificant. The design cost currently at $1.5 million. So they have agreed to cost share in that. The construction costs, unfortunately, I don't think any of us had anticipated, what we've experienced with respect to supply chain issues, but the cost of everything, including materials, have skyrocketed. Pipeline, hydrants, we've seen almost double the cost of that. So it's not only double the cost, but you almost cannot even get those materials today. It's like almost a year out when you order something today. So that the pipeline project now is estimated to cost $48 million. And I think when Pam put her project together, it was like $25 million. So basically, in a nutshell, that's where that project's at.
Let me comment on that if I may.
Sure.
A long time ago, we talked about tying into Pawtucket. I think that was, my own personal opinion is that's the only way to go. The Shad Factory, the Barrington wells, no way to go. Pawtucket's the source. We knew that years ago. East Providence refused to participate. It seems to me that knowing that we had to tie into Pawtucket, that's the only viable way of providing a redundant, good source of water. Could we not have made the decision to do it?
We did. We made that decision 2 years ago, and we're proceeding to do it regardless of whether East Providence agrees to pay and do it with us. The difference is we would put a smaller line in if East Providence were not going in with us, or we could keep the 30-inch line, and 5 years, 10 years from now, when East Providence turns on the taps and has no water, they would have to pay us their half plus something to be negotiated. So we are proceeding as if they're not going to
But the
sign.
proceeding is, I'm talking
It
now
takes
about,
forever to get approvals for things.
yeah.
So we are proceeding as quickly as we can, and we had all the town councils almost 3 years ago to agree with that.
Because my thought was if East Providence does not agree to participate in the cost, even though
We're going ahead
then
regardless.
don't allow them to share in the
Correct.
proceeds of that
is
time.
correct.
Okay,
Your
fine.
wisdom is sound and the board shares that wisdom.
Okay.
We're
We've had these
100%.
discussions, had considerable discussions, we've had great negotiation sessions with the city of East Providence. Something that was not able to be done in the distant past. They were reluctant. They also see the light, see the issue as helping them in the long run. So I think we're going to have a partner here. What we've done in this budget is we've assumed that they aren't participating. So costs might go down in the future. Might. They might
You
go
assume that
down.
they aren't participating and thus the 6% increase predicated upon them not participating? So can I reasonably assume that if they do participate and you get them locked in, the 6% will no longer be viable, it'll be less than 6%?
Well,
keep it-
from the time we first got cost estimates to today, the cost has gone from 25 million to 48 million, regardless of whether 2 towns are paying or 4 towns are paying. So I don't think that we want to project what's going to happen in the future. We're trying to do the responsible thing, having a secondary source of water, doing it in as fast a fashion as we can, as inexpensively as we can.
What this board has done over the last several years, and what the director has done over the last year he's been here, have been great stewards of the financial of the Bristol County Water Authority. I'm very cognizant of the impacts on the ratepayers. One of the things that many of our projects, sometimes we have to spend money. Many of our projects, sometimes we can get them to come in under budget. One of the major projects associated with what we're talking about now, in the presentation that you missed at the public hearing, was that the construction contract value for the Phase 1 project was $6.9 million. It was completed for $5.9 million. So we try to manage these projects as best possible, using our own talents in-house as well as consultants to help us. So the cost of doing business is high on our priority list. We're all residents in the communities we serve, and we certainly hear from our neighbors and friends about these issues from time to time. But thank you. Thank you for your comment. Move on with the agenda right now is we had a claims committee meet earlier.
We got to approve the rate increase. We had to approve the rate increase.
No, we're not at that agenda item. That was a public input discussion. But we didn't go to agenda item number 3. We were only on public input.
You need a vote to change the order of business?
That's where it's going. Is we had a meeting earlier tonight of the claims committee, and the person who is making the claim is here tonight, and I'm trying to accommodate public participation and value their time. And so I would like to move item 8, Finance Claims Committee, to be the next agenda item that will appear tonight.
Second.
Second, we have motion and second. All in favor of it? Aye. With unanimous consent. Okay. I'll turn it over to the chair of the Claims Committee to report on what the Claims Committee action was. We'll be looking for a motion in a second, and then following that, we'll have discussion of the motion in the second, as well as discussion by the chairman. Mr. Chair.
Right, the Claims Committee met this evening at 4:45 p.m. relative to the claim in front of the Bristol County Water Authority. And there was a motion passed that a refund of $2,000 be made to the person who made the claim. And the vote on that was 2-1. And would there be a motion to present to the board on this matter?
I make a
Well, I think we
motion.
did present it to the board, didn't we? We're looking for the board to approve the action of the Finance Committee.
We have no, I don't think there's been any motion presented to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, we need a motion to present the action
Of the
to be
Finance.
taken a second, and then we'll have discussion of the
Second.
motion.
I make a recommendation that we accept the recommendation of the board to reimburse $2,000 to Mr. Ross.
Second.
Second.
Can I just add that also it kind of include relief of the service termination fee in general?
Okay.
Which includes the $2,000.
Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Now we'll have a discussion. We had motion in a second. We now have discussion on the motion.
I'd like to present some information, and this is not information from George Champlin. This is information that was sent out to everybody by a member of the Bristol County Water Authority. And I can't emphasize how important I feel it is for people to have the correct and complete financial information before making a financial decision based upon my background in the world of finance. So I'd like to read from a note that was sent to Mike Crawford and Steve Cooten from Susan Revedal, I believe, who is on the staff here at the Bristol County Water Authority. It stated, January 17, 2023. And this might be redundant to some people, but at the same time, perhaps not everybody has read this. I think it's extremely important that people have this information before they make a decision. So it's relatively short, but I just want to read every word. On October 25, 2022, Brian Wood, owner of a home at 195 Church Street in Barrington, applied for a new service tap for his home. This home already has service connection SN 5255, whatever that means, tapped off South Street. The BCWA portion of that service line is 3/4 inch copper and was installed in 1944. See attached to his application. The reason Mr. Wood requested a new service tap is that he had recently had a leak on his portion of the service line. While completing the repair, his contractor told him that his service was very old, galvanized pipe and in very poor condition. He advised him to upgrade his entire line to avoid future issues. Unfortunately, the service line was installed under a concrete slab foundation and entered through the basement floor in the middle of the home, so replacement would require disruption of much of his home. The contractor advised him that it would be more cost-effective to install a new tap and abandon the existing one. Since this is a corner lot, the new tap could be installed on the other side of the home, where it was possible to install the meter close to the outside of the home. BCWA reviewed the application. Mr. Wood was charged the $4,000 fee for a new tap, along with an estimate for abandonment of the existing tap. BCWA requires proper abandonment of the service at the main and not just turning off the curb stop at the property line to reduce the risk of leaks in our system. The following is from the current BCWA rates for service document. Miscellaneous charges. So this is in the rules and regulations of the Bristol County Water Authority. Water service installation fee, $4,000. The fee includes 5-inch trench with paving on town roads to standard specifications. Any additional town paving requirements shall be billed at actual cost. Pavement restoration on state roads will be charged for actual costs based on REDOT permit requirements. The installation of services greater than 1 inch in size shall be billed at actual cost. Estimate will be provided with approved application. Number 2, service termination fee. Abandoned services are required to be cut and capped at the main. Estimate will be provided and deposit required. Work will be billed at actual cost. Mr. Wood expressed frustration at the requirement to pay for abandonment of the old service connection. However, when shown the rate for service, and that's just what I read, document, he agreed to pay and submitted the additional $2,000. I'll just repeat that. He agreed to pay and submitted the additional $2,000. BCWA then proceeded to install the new service tap, and Mr. Wood installed the new piping on that side of the house. Mr. Wood hired a plumber to install a new meter setting, and BCWA relocated the meter and activated the new service. BCWA then abandoned the original service connection at the main. The total cost of the abandonment is $2,443. $1,908 for the labor and materials for the road work, $85 for the road cut permit, and $450 for final paving to be completed in 2023. Normally, BCWA would not provide Mr. Wood with documentation of the actual cost to abandon the service connection at the main and reconcile with the estimated fee he has been charged. In this case, he would owe BCWA an additional $443. This situation does not occur very often. I can only recall, this is the person who wrote the note, only a few cases where an owner has requested a new service to a property in a different location from the original tap, requiring us to dig in 2 locations. One was Blount Soup in 2019. They relocated a 6-inch domestic water line on Water Street in Warren and paid $6,600 for the new tap and $4,100 for the abandonment of the abandoned tap. Service connection leaks comprise a large portion of the water main repairs done by BCWA crews to maintain our distribution system. For this reason, we attempt to properly abandon service connections at the water main if they will not be used in the future. So in this memo written by an employee of the Bristol County Water company, it's very clear what the process is. The process was followed exactly, and the homeowner or the property owner agreed to pay. The past precedent is in conformity with the existing regulation of the Bristol County Water Authority. So my thinking is there shouldn't be any refund. And if there were, it certainly wouldn't be in agreement with the information that was sent out by a person in Bristol County Water Authority. And I don't think it would serve Bristol County Water Authority well looking into the future, because other people in the future might want the same.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, everyone here pretty much knows my position on matters like this. And I repeat again, if we can add month after month thousands of dollars to engineering fees, contracting fees, I think we can give the ratepayer a break once in a while. And I intend to vote to give the ratepayer this reimbursement.
Yeah, Mr.
Let me just
Chairman.
ask Mr.
May I
Wood.
add one thing? George emphasized that I agreed to this. I agreed because they made it a condition to put in my new water line. I had to pay this up front.
Right, no.
I need a new water line, so I said, all right.
You said that
I'm
when you
going to pay
came
it.
here.
Yeah, so,
So,
Okay,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
wanted to make
there
sure
was a
everybody
2-to-1
understood
There
that
was a
point.
2-to-1 vote on the Finance Committee, and with all due respect to George, I disagree with his perspective, number one. Number two, I think as adults and members of this board, we are expected to read our board package in its totality before we come to a meeting. And I, for one, do not want something read to me in the future, because I think that's disrespectful of all of us.
Any other comments on the motion?
Move the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, question's been moved. All in favor of the motion as presented? In doing this, if you approve it, you're granting the $2,000 a waiver, if you will.
2,443.
It's a refund.
Yeah, refund. Refund,
He just paid the 2,000.
Correct.
right. Okay, so all in favor?
We're still holding his check, correct? Is that,
Yes.
okay, so, all right. So we haven't deposited anything and have to give a refund, it's just,
No, he
I
paid
paid
it.
it.
He paid it.
right, but we're holding his check.
I'm not quite sure about.
He will not be charged.
He will not be charged in the bookkeeping
And
expense.
and he will receive any and all
Up to our
refunds
CFO.
necessary.
Okay.
So, all in favor of the motion,
Aye.
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 please raise your
I think
hand.
you did, yeah.
All opposed? The motion passes.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming in.
You have a good night. Thanks so much.
Okay, now back to our agenda. The next item on the agenda is approval of the rate increase for fiscal 2024. We had a public hearing tonight. We had a discussion of some of the issues associated with the rate hike in the public input section of the meeting tonight.
Could I ask one more question about that whole issue of the Pawtucket tie-in? Just my own edification, not that it impacts on the rate increase. Has all the preparatory work been done to obtain all of the easements and rights for the line to Pawtucket, or are there still easements pending on private property acquisitions?
We're not at that stage yet.
Are you not even there yet? Oh, Jesus, okay, all right. Good luck.
Mr. Chairman, for the purposes of discussion, I move that we adopt a 6% increase.
Second.
Just seconds, we have a motion in seconds. Any further discussion about the rate increase? Seeing, hearing none, I ask for a vote. All those in favor of the rate increase as proposed, raise their hand. We have unanimous support of the rate increase. Thank you very much. Now back to the more mundane. No, I skipped the town of Warren, sorry, not mundane. We have a presentation by the town of Warren tonight regarding the proposed new fire station. Chief and the town manager are here to
Would they
give
look
us a
for water
presentation.
service to the fire station?
What's that?
We're gonna find
No,
out.
I think it's
The floor is yours.
You can sit there, or you can sit there, chief.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for having me. James Souza, Warren Fire Chief. Those who don't know me, been chief for 5 years, took over for Chief Gallinelli. In those 5 years, we recognized the need of a new fire station in the town, and we looked to combine a couple stations, fire and rescue station, and locating a site we located. When I say we introduce Kate Michaud, town manager, with me here tonight. We located a location of currently town-owned property right here behind Bristol County Water. This site would give us, better response time.
Excuse me, in your packets, there is a map that shows
Yep.
the property.
So the green outline is the lot that
I have a handout here too for you, so just giving the little background to why we chose that location, and this is showing, just a sketch of what it will look like on the second page. It's a bigger of what you have in your packets.
This is in addition to the current stations, not instead of, is that correct?
It would be a consolidation. We would move 2 stations to this rescue and 1 fire station.
Chief, could you, and if you have copy, and see if that's.
So Juan, our lot is this one in green, right?
Yes.
That's correct. So the first one shows, for reference, you can see your parking lot where the vehicles are. That's right behind your building here, just for reference. And then you can see your lot for the second page, your lot that's highlighted in green. And next to that lot is a paper road, if you will, around an existing home that's there. So in order to get the station we would desire, we would wish to have like a flow through, so you can see, travel through, have apparatus, bay doors on either side of the station, so apparatus will come around and drive in, and then proceed to drive right out. Our main exit would be right here on Serpentine.
So question, are you planning to take this lot with an existing house by eminent domain?
Not the house, not the house. Not the
So
house.
it would appear to be in your way.
No, the paper road goes between that house and the next home.
Right, I see that.
Why don't we let him get through his presentation?
Okay. So that's the plan, to be able to have a station that would fit our needs, fit the apparatus we would need to fit in it, and have the size to be able to come around and drive in that way and have some additional parking for the members. As you know, if you don't know, we have a volunteer staff. The members respond in when a call comes in and gets in the apparatus and proceeds to the call. Not the rescue. The rescue would be manned there as well, and currently the rescue is we try to staff it with volunteers, but we put them in on a shift, and they're in the station ready to go. So we have 1 rescue manned out of this location. So that gets to the second page, for access. In order to get to that property where the fire station is, we need to cross over property that is currently owned by Bristol County Water. And that's highlighted in green as the lot in question. It is the desire of the town to possibly acquire this property, if it can be, to make that feasible or come up with an agreement for that access. The property in question is yours through a statement of taking. The town solicitor has reviewed that statement of taking, and he has a position on it. And I'll pass that over to Ms. Michaud, if you don't mind, on that, the process we could follow with that, potentially acquiring that property.
Sure, the town solicitor has reviewed the statement of taking and done an analysis in accordance with the Rhode Island State Constitution. His professional opinion is that obviously the previous owner of the property, if Bristol County Water Authority were to agree that this property is no longer necessary for their operations and they were to agree to no longer own the property, the first right of refusal would go to the previous property owner from whom the property was taken back when it was taken. If that property owner declines or does not agree, doesn't want to participate, then the second right of refusal comes to the town in accordance with the state law, and then the town would have to pay the fair market value for the property. So the town solicitor is confident that if Bristol County Water Authority were amenable to pursuing that option, that that's something that could be legally permissible.
Pursuing the option meaning selling the lot.
Right. The other option is for Bristol County Water, if Bristol County Water wants to participate, Bristol County Water could retain ownership and provide either an easement, a right-of-way, or a license agreement to pass over that property, if that was a preferred route for the district.
I have some questions that maybe I need to say that I was involved with the acquisition of this property, but not representing Bristol County Water Authority, representing the state of Rhode Island State Water Resources Board. I don't think there's any precedent here, so this is going to be a little confusing, I'm guessing, on the state's part. And I have no relationship with the state any longer, so I don't know how they would treat this. But this was acquired through the fee that is tacked on to water bills, and it's used for protecting water supplies and watershed areas. And this was brought before the Water Resources Board, I'm going to say maybe about 15 years ago. And it was approved for purchase using the water protection monies. And so the question will then become, if we stated that we no longer have a need for this property, how would the state respond to that? Because we use special funds for that. They're restricted receipt funds, and the state in the past is very difficult to deal with these kind of things. I'm not saying we're going to say no to it, or the state's going to say no to it. I'm just thinking it's going to get very complex in doing so. Well, let me ask you a question, because you said maybe the Bristol County Water Authority could continue to own the property. Would it have to be paved? It looks like it would have to be paved.
To handle the weight of the apparatus
Right.
moving around there, that section would need to be paved.
Yeah, no, because
But you could pave it with something that did not cause runoff.
Yeah, but I mean, as part of the development of the site in general, we're gonna have to make sure that we don't increase any of the net runoff from the site for the whole property.
Yeah.
So that's definitely part of the plan that we're already working on with the state.
And so there may be something that very innovative that could be done here that we're not even thinking of right now.
We've talked about underground infiltration systems, or, utilizing rain gardens in conjunction with underground infiltration. We're definitely starting to walk down that path with it.
And our situation has completely changed since 15 years ago when we were using the reservoirs, and now it's no longer an identified water supply for Bristol County, so that protection of the Kickamuit for water supply isn't a major issue. You still have the same kind of issues you have with any kind of development runoff and so on, but it's a whole different situation. So you're not asking for our approval tonight, you're just here to provide information, tell us where you're going forward.
That's correct, yeah. We understand your lawyers would have to review it as well, work with the town solicitor to see what kind of language can be worked out, even if it is a license agreement.
Right. So any other questions from the board?
I would think you'd have less of a headache with an easement. Because otherwise you're opening up a whole can of worms.
You just maintain the land.
We own it, they put a road
You know,
across.
Jay, with the town solicitors talk to our attorney at all?
Not at this point, no. We wanted to present to you first and then ask, if it's okay with you, then we could make that connection, and then work on it moving forward.
I personally see no problem with it. It's sitting there doing nothing for us.
Chief, I signed a 99-year lease with the veterans.
When you did
When I
the
did mine.
Okay.
This is, just for you Warrenites, this is something that's very, very vital to that organization. From my opinion, I did the same thing in Bristol, and it's many years, a long time ago. It goes by, and it's for the town of Warren, and if you're a Warrenite, you've got to support it.
Juan's got a point. the state was involved. And some guy up there may say, hey, that's not what that
If
was.
it's on our deed now, we can go ahead and
And
have the
certainly,
lawyer draw up a lease
So-
for 99 years or something.
certainly we can represent to you that we're going to talk to our attorneys about this, and we'll probably have some meetings with the Water Resources Board and attorneys with them. And then maybe an issue, may not be an issue at all. It may, we don't know at this point. Any other comments, thoughts? Thank you. Thank you.
What's that?
What's that, 20-foot road?
I'm not sure that dimension of that, but it is in all the town records as access to that.
I believe it's
40 foot.
40 foot?
Yeah.
Oh, it won't hit the house.
Well, thank you very much for coming
Thank
in.
you for having me.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Give me good luck with it.
Oh, just rest Michelle.
He sat down and drive, it'll be all right.
Is he back?
Okay, board minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Approved.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes from the December 7th, 2022 meeting, raise the hand. No opposition. Thank you. Executive Director's Report. Mr. Kutu.
Yes, sir. Okay. Puckett pipeline project, phase 1, complete. Just some minor punch list items remaining to close out the contract. Phase 2, as noted previously, Beta has prepared an amendment for additional engineering work associated with the route change, which I had shown during the public hearing. There'll be the bridge crossing over the railroad and additional work on Puckett Avenue. Survey work is continued as well as some additional borings. We also made some headway with respect to obtaining all the water analysis that we need from both Pawtucket and Providence, so that their water quality sub-consultants can start doing the work for the treatment system that's going to be needed for the blending of the two waters. During the 30% design, some additional challenges have developed. Just to make you aware, particularly on Waterman Avenue, where the pipeline comes up on the other side of the highway to Waterman Avenue, a myriad of utilities, just trying to find a way to kind of put a 30-inch pipeline, proving to be a little bit of a challenge. May require some additional easement property. We can't find some room within Waterman Avenue itself. And also at the crossing of the 10 Mile River, Beta had proposed to put it along an easement that exists for a sewer line that belongs to East Providence. That property belongs to the Agawam Country Club, which is also under the auspices of the way their property is under the Nature Conservancy. Has a say in whatever work they do over there. And they've indicated that they are not very excited about the project at this time.
Why? Did they indicate what the problem?
Well, they indicated they don't want to see the pipe. They're concerned with construction noise going forward. So we're bringing it to your attention at this time. I don't want to say too much
Have we
more.
gotten the payment from East Providence yet?
We have not received the payment from East Providence yet, but they have received their comments from their consultant who have reviewed the plans that we've submitted to them. And I hope to receive those comments within a week or so. And once I receive those comments, I would expect that we should receive payment for the reimbursement.
Because legally, I would think as long as East Providence has signed the documentation and has started to pay, that if necessary, they could use the right of eminent domain to do that through the Agawam hump, whether they like it or not, right?
Right.
So from our standpoint, collectively, it's far better to have East Providence on
Absolutely.
the hook for a number of reasons.
Right.
Could I ask a question? Wasn't there litigation between the Bristol County Water Authority and the Agawam Dam people? And has that been resolved?
That's unrelated to what we're
That doesn't have
talking
anything to do
about.
with the Agawam Hunt Club. That's a different location.
Okay, good location, thank you.
With respect to the demo of the water treatment plant, phase 1 is currently out to bid, and the bids are due February 2nd. I haven't heard anything new, no information with respect to the buildings. For the dam removal project, pretty much status quo with respect to permits. Still waiting on final from Division of Wetlands. I did reach out recently to a department director at DEM, and we'll be having a meeting with them, with our consultants, tentatively for next week, to try and move that ahead. If we're going to move forward with this project this year, due to the time of the year restrictions placed on it by the U.S. Army Corps, we need to get the lower dam project out to bid sometime on this March. So it's critical that we get those approvals from DEM.
Can you put out the request for proposal from somebody without those saying that you're gonna?
Yeah, I don't think we want to do that.
Okay.
With respect to meters, we're down to 55 meters, remaining to be changed out.
55.
We're pretty much there. Obviously, we have just a few left. We have 17,323 new meters in the system with 55 remaining. Joe and his team has been doing an outstanding job, and come the spring, we'll have a more defined plan of action on how we'll deal with those last remaining 55 meters. With the meter program essentially complete, we've also started looking at a new customer portal program, which you may or may not have heard about, but it allows with this new, with these meters, because we receive information, data, every 15 minutes. It's almost instantaneously, but there are programs out there that we've looked at, varying degrees of sophistication and price points. But our meter vendor, who we really want to work with on this, they've just come out, or starting to come out, with a customer portal program. And we've agreed to be a beta tester for the product prior to rollout. We've had some just training on it, but it does allow a customer to log on. You can go in, see their account, see their usage. It can send out alerts. They can set alerts if it's high usage being used and things
So
like
it
that.
could alert a customer to a potential leak.
Correct.
And I've seen these systems in operation in some other water systems, and they really do have impact on usage, and people are able to make adjustments so that they can keep their bill as low as possible.
So I'll provide information as that testing continues. Water purchases from Providence were typically this time of year. Overall, water purchases were on the high side due to the drought that we had this past summer, by the graphs and charts and such. And also, I just want to let the board members know that towards the end of this last year or so, we completed a training room upstairs. At one time, when I first got here, it was just kind of like a storage room for kind of like where computers went to die. And our IT manager, Randy, had a little office there in the corner. But Mike had a vision of making this into a training room for our operators, and using our own in-house staff, they made it happen. And now it's a really good room, good space to use for our employee training programs. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Financial report.
Mike? Oh, Mike?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Escape 3 here?
Yes, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Not too much else to add. It's winter time. We're out there. We're fixing mains, multiple main service leaks. Nothing extraordinary. Luckily, the weather's been somewhat moderate, but we are out there almost every day. And we are excited. You know, we have a lot of interest out. We have 2 projects advertised right now, so we're gearing up for a hopeful active construction season. With both the demolition and the water main improvement. Lots of interest. We fortunately did get out early. We're out early relative to the area, and we get positive responses with all the proposals. So like Steve said, those open next week. We've taken some steps to mitigate some of the supply chain, especially with the water main, by procuring some of the equipment. We started the procurement last summer, and we hope to actually receive it this coming spring. So that'll help keep future projects on target. And then the supply chain, unfortunately, the pump station, it's delayed a little bit further. We just received updated information, which is being compiled into a schedule right now by the contractor that pushes things out a little bit further. So unfortunately, where we are in that project, not a lot of visible things can go forward without actually powering the building, which we need these components for. So we have some civil work, site work to get done. That's delayed for the winter. So we'll start that up in the spring or if the weather really breaks. But unfortunately, the stuff that we hope to get in March is now June. So.
You have gas and power there on the site now, right?
We have to the demarcs. We have power to the from their demarc and gas to their demarc. We hope to bring power up to the building, maybe into like a temporary panel. But the first place power comes in the building, those are the things we won't see until June. So it's hard to get it there. Same thing with gas. We could bring it into the building. It's really only powering a generator, but the electronics that control the generator and control batteries, charge the batteries, we won't have any of that. So we will do all the site work once the weather clears, all the concrete, so that all these things will be in underneath those stormwater improvements, things like that. So unfortunately, it's just sitting there, but hopefully late summer at this point. Or it's still
No. Has anything been delivered but not put into service that has a limited warranty period that could be affected by the, you buy a particular motor or something and it's guaranteed for 90 days and you've got it and you're not going to be able to run that motor to see if it even works.
So we're insulated, yeah, that is an issue, but we're insulated a little bit because it's usually based on startup of the equipment, manufacturer type startup, like pumps. We do have some small pumps, but the clock doesn't start running on that until the vendor actually comes in and commissions it. And then from there it's whatever the manufacturer has, and we also have a pond. Once the project is kind of handed over as a package to us as the owner, it's a 1-year kind of bumper to bumper. Mm-hmm. And then each individual component has their unique manufacturers.
Good.
But we're trying to get as much stuff, just grab it from wherever we can. That's basically it.
Is somebody got to go over Susan's report, or?
Susan's not here, but she's the project manager for the water main renewals for 2023. Basically, her memo just spells out the locations and the lengths that we'll be planning to work on that project. She's been busy putting that project together. It's out to bid now, and that is also, the bid opening is on February 2nd.
Perhaps the only comment I had heard from a resident of Bristol regarding the rate increase, after she expressed concern about the number And I talked to her, I was explaining to her that we're doing a lot of capital projects. In fact, what is mentioned in Susan's report, and she was then pointing out that she's seen the impact of that. And I told her that the unfortunate part of doing these repairs before they're a problem is nobody ever thinks there was a problem. And it seems like an odd way of saying that, but what I'm saying is good for us that we're staying ahead of the problems and fixing them before they become real disasters or crises. And so I think we save ourselves a lot of money in the long run by continuing to do these kinds of projects. And I've always been an advocate for us, we should do a lot more of these projects. But anyway, I'm gonna have to say no, I'm sorry. All right, and Randy's report is pretty much self-explanatory.
Yeah, I just want to point out, there is one thing in Randy's report. He does note, because he's serving as the project manager for the customer portal program, and also one thing that it's not only between Neptune, but also with our billing company, so that this portal kind of works seamlessly between the billing and also the interactive portal, so customers aren't put in all kinds of different directions online. The other thing that Randy's been working on along with Lauren, I had talked a little bit about a document management system for our posting of our agendas and kind of a historical archive of our agendas, similar to what other towns use. Most towns contract out that service, and when we talked about it with Randy, he said, well, I think I could put together something like that just on our own website. So we started working on that with Lauren, and it looks promising.
Good. As much information as we can get out to the public, the better. Now we can do the financial report.
All right, it's been a while, I haven't looked at anything since October because of the budget meetings and stuff. So for page 4, we're looking at December versus December, this is just a month. A lot of the stuff here is timing. The big thing, if you look at December revenue, it looks like it's down a lot versus December 2021 revenue. And a lot of that is timing, and it's also, Joe tweaked the billing a little bit, the 9 routes, to try to make them flow a little better with everything else. So December was kind of the month that's gonna take the hit, and going forward, it should smooth things out with 9 routes, right? So that's probably the primary thing with December's decrease in revenue. Usually consumption doesn't change too much in December.
Excuse me, that doesn't have any effect on customer billing though?
No.
No,
No.
okay.
The expenses were a little bit higher in December. Again, it's mostly timing. There was some computer things. There's some prepayments. Salaries and wages were up a little bit, but look at additional time and hours. I know there's a couple of water main breaks around Thanksgiving. Those could have flowed into the December payroll. And operations and maintenance was a lot higher. And again, that was timing with some of the bills when they came in. Sue gave me a handful of bills in December to pay. When you get to the cumulative month through December versus through December, revenue through December 22 is a little bit higher than it was last year, 1.83%. Again, it would have been a little bit higher, sans those switching in the 9 routes to slide into the beginning of January. The expenses were a little bit higher, 5.03%. Most of this is really the water purchase and the debt service that I didn't budget for, $55,000. And some operation and maintenance expenses a little higher just due to the timing. Professional fees were down. Joe's not here for me to poke at, but we have fewer legal bills this year, and some of the consulting costs is down over the prior year.
I told Joe to stay home to save costs.
He's sailing on his boat.
Page 6 has actual versus budget. Revenue's still over budget, we're over 6.45%. Usually starts leveling off towards the end of the year anyway, so we should see a level off in January and February. Again, the 9 routes made that a little less over budget.
How many routes are there?
It was, about 100. Yeah. So we just shifted 9 to make it,
Okay.
the workflow work a little bit better for the ladies in the office building wise. He's been wanting to do it for a while, but, so he finally pulled the trigger. The expenses through December are still under budget 6.65%. A lot of the things are under budget. The biggest one's obviously professional fees, a lot of that, so the lawyers and consulting costs and engineering costs a little bit lower. Some of the projects that are moving slow, like the whole street pump station, so some of the consulting fees are down a little. Computer expenses were under due to some timing, and there was a $20,000 network upgrade for Neptune that we haven't quite done yet, that was budgeted for. Administrative expenses are under budget so far, really because we haven't paid the OPEB. We only paid it in February. So I think when I put in the budget for 2024, I'll skew that piece so that doesn't get blended into June, July, August, and I'll make that hit in February when the OPEB payment gets paid. For the pages 7 and 9, those are the dollars billed and gallons billed. The dollars billed is up 4.53%. Gallons delivered is up 0.98%. Again, that's skewed a little bit because they're moving the 9 routes, but that's pretty much up largely because of the rate increase. We had a really dry summer, but the fall's been wet. I think for the year we're about average. So really what we've seen so far increase in the billing is really the rate increase. Page 10, you have your trust fund report. That's debt service ratio, still looking good. We're 6.58%, which is up a little bit from the last month. And then page 11 is the pension summary report. Was overall decrease for the month, primarily due to the unrealized losses. For the month of 139,000. We're about, the pension plan year goes July to June, so compared to the beginning of the year, we're up a little bit from June, from July 1st. Hopefully we see it go up January through June to help balance out what we're going to contribute to the pension, but that's where that stands. So all the ups and downs have basically put us $25,000 higher than we were July 1st.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Does anybody have any reports regarding their town councils or the towns? Any board member? No? Okay. Item 10 is a discussion regarding election of chairman and vice chairman. I guess Joe Keogh, our attorney and our director, have had some conversations regarding that, so we'll turn it over.
Yeah, so, at the last meeting, it was requested that Joe look into this, so these bullets basically just came from an email that I got from him. I don't know if I need to read everything here, but you essentially have Juan serving tonight as the acting chair. He's officially the vice chair, that's his role. And so basically it comes down to 2 options. Since I know you had the elections at the May annual meeting, you could wait until then and one can continue to serve in the acting role, or if the board would like to elect a chair and vice chair sooner, then that's definitely your prerogative if you want to do that, and you can put that on agenda for next meeting.
Steve, are there any things where Juan may have to sign something as chairman? That would cover it anyway, I would.
That would cover it anyways. It's not very frequently. The biggest thing is when we did the bond, and we had a lot of documents to sign, but we're not going out for bond this year.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept item number 1, the 2 options, and hold that position until the annual meeting, which I believe is in May, because if we start next month, by the time we can even do it, it'll be March or April.
Yeah.
It's not even.
My only question with that is who's the vice? So, say if one can't make it, who serves and who
Can't we
doesn't
just
need it?
appoint one tonight?
Well, we have a motion on the floor, so I'm gonna, the little bit I know about Robert's Rules of Order, I'd like to get a second on that. A second does not mean you approve the motion, it's just that it opens it for discussion, so if somebody could second this motion. Nobody wants to second?
I second it.
Okay, now we can have an official discussion.
Well, couldn't we just select the vice chair tonight?
Is
Acting.
It's not on the agenda.
No.
Put it on the next meeting.
We could do that next month, but we can't do it tonight.
You gotta give people time to put the bumper stickers on. The signs
He's already
on
got
the
it, the guy
walls
on
and so
champion's
forth.
already got it made up. It's just gonna take, we could take a council or secretary of state. Which one do you want?
The thing that I had talked to, I met with Joe earlier this week just to go over things in general. And we were going through the agenda items, and when we came to this, I said, what I'm saying here is not self-serving at all. I'm just saying, he kept coming back to the legislation says that the chair and vice chair serve at the pleasure of the board, and that's in the legislation. And I said, it's, and that the election doesn't even have to be held. If it's decided that the chairman is doing a good job, you don't even have to have an election, they would just go on. And I said, that seems so odd that not in our, if it's not in the legislation, then maybe it should be in our bylaws that the term of the chair is, from May to May or whatever it is, and so that we know and what the replacement process is, if that's not spelled out. It just seems odd that that's not spelled out anywhere. But we can go with what Bob just mentioned and say, we'll do this in May at the annual meeting. In the meantime, you do have the question about the vice chair. And if I wasn't available, I think we'd find somebody who would run the meeting. I've seen it in some agencies where it falls on the shoulders of the director.
Well, that's good.
Well, the next person that holds the last position,
That's true.
Just want to remind everybody, Steve, that we elect chairman, vice chairman, and secretary treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
And each town has to be represented.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want, George is the current secretary treasurer. If you wanted someone in an official position to hold the meeting,
Right.
we could do that. Also, I think it would give Stephen time to get to know everybody, but also keep in mind that each town has to be represented. So it limits, all of a sudden, you're not voting for the next, for the other eight.
Bristol doesn't stage a coup and hold all the offices.
Those days are gone.
But I agree, I support option one.
Well, we could put that on the agenda for next month, for the March meeting, and then is it May or April?
Like the fall.
As far as being electing vice chairman next month?
No, we would have on the agenda the delegation of a vice chairman when there is an acting, when there's a vice chairman who's
okay.
acting as a chairman kind of thing. We'll get better wording than that statement of mine. We could do that next month, and then 2 months from then, we can have the actual election.
Sure.
And then between now and then, maybe we'll come up with something that we can put into bylaws or something that will memorialize what the process is here. I don't know, maybe we're having a constitutional crisis. But
Is this January 6th? No. Let's vote.
Yeah, okay. you had a motion to go with,
Option one.
Option one of the two options.
would you be receptive to adding, no, just go with that right now.
That's it. And then if you want-
Next month, we'll put on the agenda dealing with the vice chair position. Or,
Yes.
okay. We had a second, we had a motion, it was seconded. Is there any more discussion? No. All in favor of Mr. Martin's motion? Raise your hands. We got it, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we put on the agenda next month to discuss the vice chair.
Second.
Second, all in favor? It'll be there.
To discuss or to elect the vice chair, there may be a distinction.
Yeah, make it, amend that motion.
An acting vice chair?
I would say that since I'm the vice chair,
You're not acting as a...
very clever, you're gonna get me out that way. No,
I think we need an acting
No.
vice chair.
no, that's what I'm gonna say. I think next month is to do an acting, what the succession, line of succession here is the board. And that in May, there'll be an election of all the officers.
Very good.
Okay? All right. And on we go. Okay, we have item 12. Item 12.
Item 11.
Oh, no, item 11, discussion regarding the email addresses for the directors.
Okay, I only put this on only because I know we set up Bristol County email addresses for everybody. Our concern is that we're not really sure if people are using them. And, really the most important thing is that all the directors are getting the information. Lauren just wants to know, like, what are we doing? I mean, are we just, we're gonna continue just using your old email addresses where it was easy? Or the Bristol?
So let me ask the question. I have checked my email, but I don't do it that often through the Bristol County Water Authority address. But are you saying that you send out notices of the meetings to those addresses now as well as the old addresses?
Well, the initial thought was when the Bristol County email addresses were created, that all communications would go strictly through the Bristol
Right.
County Water. But it appears, I don't know if people have been using them.
Yeah.
And my concern, and I was telling Steve, is I'm afraid to send communications and have you not getting them.
Right.
So, and it seems like the preference for most people is to use their old address, not the Bristol County. That's the feedback I'm getting.
Old habits die hard.
Doesn't the Outlook have a thing where if you request a receipt, you get it? For instance, if you send it to Outlook and I open it up, you get notified, I looked at it.
Right, I haven't been getting notifications. I didn't get notifications.
Well, I've got-
I use it, but I
Everything for this month has come through on the
Yeah.
on my regular email.
I'll say received or something.
Have there been any problems with the way it has worked in the past?
Not when you used your own emails, no. It was very smooth.
To me, that would be my preference, because I get a lot of emails, and this way I can just look at one spot.
But what I would suggest, and I said old habits die hard, what you need to do is show a new habit and to get rid of the old one. And so if that you started now, and I'm not doing this, so I'll say, I don't think it's a major task for you to send out, instead of 9 notices, you send out 18. And it's getting it to the old address and it's getting to the new address. And maybe that will get some of us to go into the new address. I hope on my part, perhaps, maybe false hope.
Have you sent anything to the new addresses yet?
I did initially, but I was getting feedback that either people were having challenges getting onto the new, the Bristol County one, And I had questioned our IT manager as to whether that can be integrated with your current email notifications on your phones, which I think he said it did, but that would require you to set that up on your phones.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
I think maybe some education might be required, because I was thinking I could do that also, and I said, well, I don't want to sit in here and play with it for a while and find out I can't. So maybe if he came in at an upcoming meeting and there may be a 10-minute slot, said this is what you do, and give us a little handout and take us through the process, maybe we would do that.
I set up mine for forward to my old address, which I think is what it did for the things you sent. But what is the objective? I am sort of lost as to what we're gaining by doing this.
Yeah.
The old system seemed to work fine.
I'm not interested in creating no email address, because I wouldn't expect anything, you know? My cell phone is not, it's a simple flip phone. You can text me.
You might be the last man standing.
I tell you why, because I'm just not interested. Anything I need to know and
They're
want to
coming
know,
back.
I can find it without whatever, so. I prefer to use my email address that it's always been since forever.
Would there be a good security reason for the emails to go to
No.
Bristol County Water Authority? Yeah. As a person, I already have a whole bunch of emails, and personally, I just don't need one more. And it works fine the way it is now, so if it works, why break it?
I am a dinosaur.
Well, maybe the experiment.
I mean, the only reason we did it in town, same with school, I'm not allowed to use a personal email for company business, and that's the same story here. I mean, do you want to keep your business BCWA mixed with your personal emails? You know, you hit a wrong button, and the next thing you forward it off to something that was confidential, personnel related to some unknown party. That's ultimately the reason. Then if there's a litigation and they need information, particularly in open meetings, you can go back and forth in your personal email and never know. That tamps down on the.
Let's do what I was suggesting, is have Randy give us a little show and tell on how you can set it up on your phone or your computer so it's quickly and easily accessible. Because I found it kind of, I'm usually the person that people come to for tech advice, and I was finding it kind of awkward to use. And I was thinking I probably can integrate this in with my regular email, but I don't want to take the time to do it. So if somebody held my hand and held everybody's hand and said, this is what you can do, it might be so easy that keeping things separate would be a really good thing.
Would others be comfortable with that, to have Randy do a demo? And you feel like you could work with your phones?
I like what I have.
Yeah.
How about we have Randy come in, do the demo. Meanwhile, what we'll do is, I mean, it's really just setting up two email groups, and it will send them to both for now.
Help me on it, but I don't think anything that is secure or like executive meetings should be sent by email. This is what I do with the signed minutes. It's just from me to you directly. So I can't see the type of problem that Chris brought up happening, because nothing of a secure nature, of an executive meeting nature, should be sent by direct email.
Well, I think in the past, we have received some information from Joe Keel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, attorney,
Attorney
could be
Yeah, so
confidential.
That's a different source, but I'm talking.
But let's look at this as an opportunity, but we don't know what the opportunity is. And let's get some instruction on how we can do this a different way from Randy and do that. So moving on the agenda.
And can I, if that type of information is being sent out by Joe directly, I suggest that perhaps that should be revisited. I don't think it should be done that. It must be a different way to be done, or by secure email or something.
Yeah,
I think that if it's just open email, it probably shouldn't be done that way.
Well, legally, if it says attorney-client privilege, it is a privilege.
Yeah.
And the only danger you run is if somebody hacks into your email and they find out something about North Farm, which is probably 1 in a $10 million occurrence. So,
I'm trying to move the agenda along, so I think you have valid points on both sides. Number 12, right, yes, 12, yes, 12. Approval of contract award to sole source construction for carpet. Steve?
Yep. The memo, we're recommending a contract award to sole source to replace the carpet here, the amount of $54,800 with a 20% contingency for a total project budget, $65,760.
Move to approve.
second?
Is any discussion, no discussion? A vote? Those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Shows you how prices have gone up.
That's it. That's a unanimous approval of that. And the next item on the agenda is number 13, approval of contract amendment to Park Corporation for dam removal project.
This amendment includes to Park Corporation for additional permitting efforts. As you know, it's been a little bit of a struggle to get the permits approved from CRMC, Army Corps, DEM. And then it's also to finalize the design drawings and specs for bidding, and then provide assistance during the bid process. I note that we already have received grant funds and these costs are reimbursable through that grant. The amendment is for $55,925.50.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is number 14, approval of hydrant procurement. Steve?
Last September, if you recall, the board approved hydrant procurement for 16 hydrants. It's not like the old days. We put the order in now, and now it's like 9 months out. For us to maintain adequate inventory, and we're also looking to use some of these hydrants that we already have in stock as part of our renewal project. So that project remains on track. And so to kind of restock our hydrant inventory, we're requesting additional 10 hydrants at the same unit price of $2,900 per hydrant.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Almost got you that time. Unanimous. Item 15, Personnel Committee Report, Executive Director Performance Review and Annual Goals. Mr. Janito.
Okay, Personnel Committee met.
Yeah, well, let me say something first. There was a memo that was emailed today, and a paper copy was handed out tonight. And I'm sorry for the delay in that getting out, but it happened. And John's going to go through.
You all have a copy of it now. And we all seem to have pretty much the same opinion, so you really don't even have to read much of it. And I could just go to the tail end of it and show you a recommendation made by the Personnel Committee that will be left open for discussion by all of us. And our first recommendation was for a salary increase for the director between 4.0 and 4.5. And we can discuss that. And the other recommendation is to consider what you want to do with the goals. You want to add to them?
Let's get
drop them, or
let's get a motion in a second to open for discussion on the first item, and that was the increase of Mr. Kutu's salary by 4 to 4.5%.
As the chairman, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
That we award Mr.
Do we have a
Kutu.
second?
Well, I haven't made a
Yes,
motion.
yes, motion.
I want to make a motion that we increase Mr. Kutu's salary by 12.5.
Okay. Do we have a second? Oh, second here. And discussion. As John noted, and I'm on the Personnel Committee, when we met last week with Steve, we were amazed that and when you get a group of 9 people together, that they all have very similar thinking about a person's performance. You know, some might have ranked high in one area and lower in another, but overall, it was a pretty uniform thinking that our director is doing a great job, and he's taken the agency further than we've gone before. And there were, what I liked in looking at all of this was that not only there was numerical scores, everybody took the time to say something positive about Steve's effort and his strengths, and that one of the things that's most important is the communication skills, and that he presents things very well and intelligently and in some orderly fashion. What struck us, though, was the cost of living these days, and how all of the factors that are out there these days are showing that what the motion is actually less than what we're seeing out there in the workplace, and that even some of the older members of the board here have noticed, and John and I exchanged thoughts on this, is when we got our Social Security letter this year, and it was being raised. At the meeting, we were thinking it went up by 5% or something like that, but it went up actually, it was 8.9% or something. 9%. Outrageously high. And that in itself is an incredible, it was 8.7%. That's an incredible indicator of how salaries are going up much higher. But we felt it was prudent. We felt that Mr. Kutu deserved a good raise, but we felt prudency was also in order, and that's where the 4.5% comes from. And I'm sorry, I'm not taking public comment.
As a ratepayer, I'd like to ask a question about this.
No, I'm not opening it up to public comment, I'm sorry.
You want to keep on the public.
I'm not opening it up to public comment, thank you.
That's unfortunate.
I can talk to you later, Peter, but we had our public comment earlier. Any other comments?
Well, I just want to comment that Steve did not want to be considered a senior citizen and get 8%.
It's great being a senior citizen. No other comments, thoughts, so forth?
Well,
Yes?
I'll make a comment. I think that the 4.5 to 5 is low relative to what most of us around the table have received this year and such. And if I were to counter that, I would say let's do 6%, just to do something, use that, not to be like at the low end of the scale, I'm sorry, relative to where we are today in today's world. Next year could be totally different if you hit the old recession world, and no telling what's going to happen. But it seems to me that we step back from what the average Social Security recipient is getting, which, although there hasn't been keeping lockstep with the world.
Not to say yes or no to that, I think you have a good thought, and that's what part of this memo was outlining, is that there's a lot of factors out there, there's a lot of statistics out there right now showing that wages are going up by higher percentages than that. Other than asking for a friendly amendment to his motion, what do other board members think before a vote is taken? Should we be going with the 4.5% raise that the personnel chair recommends? or should we be doing something higher? Or anything else? Any other thoughts?
Can I say something?
Bill?
If I could, I think we couldn't have expected or planned for what Steve has brought to the table when he was first come on board. I think the time that he was at East Providence, picked up administrative knowledge. I think the people that he deals with know him as a professional, man of his word, can work with, can work for. And 4.5 sounds good to me, and it may not to the general public, because when they're paying more for gas, heat, all across the board to live, then those that are deemed as a public official, we can't afford to pay you what you're worth because I'm not making that kind of money, or someone else is not. That's in the public eye. Fire, police, town managers, whoever they are.
Right.
So, and I think we have to let Stephen know how much we appreciate what he's done, and that we want to keep him here.
Yeah, and again, you know, we provided some of the statistics in the memo, and also provided all of your, not all of the comments that you made, but many of the comments pointing out that it's just not, his performance didn't boil down to a number on a scale. It was that he was doing a really good job. Yes.
So what I've been seeing like across the industry is that, and like any industry, is that there's resource constraints, and that when you have someone that seems to be very solid, I haven't really worked with Steve yet, but when I sat down and talked with him, he knew every single one of these projects, and finding someone who could do like multiple projects and being able to manage these projects is harder and harder to find, especially with the big baby boomer generation retiring, and finding that talent. And like if Steve was to move on, like would be able to find the next successor. So we should make sure we entice him to stay here and that he has our support.
I had a question, and that is, did Steve get a copy of this?
Yes.
Okay, because you did a revision of your goals for 2023, Steve, and there were some additional refined goals at the bottom of this memo that I thought maybe should be incorporated.
Yeah.
If you agreed with those.
It was separated out like this because I don't think we're actually there yet to define all the goals. The simple thing was the goals that he had last year are still the goals that he has this year.
Right.
However, many of you expressed other goals, and I think they were all very good goals.
Yeah, I was just asking if he was going to go back
I
and
think,
formally give us revised goals.
yeah, I
for
think
20
John and I and Steve need to sit and refine these, and we didn't have the time.
That's fine.
And
Because I thought there were some good thoughts in here.
yeah, okay, good.
These, I did receive everyone's comments, did take them into consideration. I pretty much stuck, these are the goals that I have for the authority. But however, I am willing to listen, and if I'd like to add to these, we certainly can do that.
Okay, any other discussion about the 4.5% versus something else? We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. And I'll call for a vote on that motion. And the motion is to grant a pay increase for Mr. Kutu of 4.5%. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. We have those against. We have one against, two against. Okay. And I would suggest for the minutes, your comments reflected your no vote. It's not a vote against a raise.
It wasn't against the raise, it was to put more into the raise.
Okay.
Agreed.
The second part of this.
I like it so far.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would it be helpful if the people who voted against could just say why?
Yes.
Okay, would you want to be on the record as to why you voted
My
against?
comment is that the average salary increases, starting with the person who draws Social Security, was as close to 9%. And as everything is escalated, Bill's comment was, but Steve has to put gas in his tank also, to buy groceries, to do everything else. That's why I went in that direction.
So you thought it should be higher?
Yes, ma'am. I didn't claim ma'am, yes, I feel that it should be higher than the 4.5%.
Stephen?
I also agree with his sentiments. Basically in here, it even says that 4.6 is the projected average salary increase. And clearly you already performed higher than expectations based on the board's scores, so I think you should have deserved higher.
Mr. Chairman, one thing we might consider, given that, is in the past, we have, if my memory is correct, given a bonus to someone. And one of the things we might want to consider is if and when we actually get the East Providence agreement signed, sealed, delivered, and get money, that might be a time to consider something like that.
I'm not familiar with what you say, but
Mr. Chairman, if I could just...
Hold on,
hold on a second.
I remember years ago when, in lieu of raises for the non-union employees, John, you'll remember, because they went
We gave bonuses.
3 or 4, and the gentleman before Mark, that was the financial officer.
You forgot him already.
We could not give out a bonus. That wasn't the way it was worded. You could give a raise, because I
See, I think
opposed
Pam,
that.
I believe Pam got one. That was before my time, but in my time on the board, I believe Pam got a bonus.
yeah, I don't remember bonuses at all, so.
No, I
It was
don't.
before your time too.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would know, John.
I
don't
grew up in it,
Our
but
minutes would reflect
yeah.
I don't know whether it was called a bonus, it was some other term. like-
performance
Yeah.
recognition or.
Oh, I can talk to our attorney to see if there's anything that would preclude us from doing bonuses.
You see, the advantage of doing that is then if inflation goes down, you haven't raised your bar
Right.
and increases on top of the bar.
Let me take John.
Yeah,
You've got-
I just wanted to explain, to give you an idea how we came with the 4.5. We both generally agreed that he should get more, but it was kind of the idea that we just had a public hearing on rate increase, and we didn't want to, make it look like, bang, we're giving a rate increase just to raise the executive director's salary.
Good point.
So it was, it's what we could sell to the public. We all know what he's worth. His value is, it's incredible what he's done.
I agree.
Was any effort made or given to searching to see what comparable positions are being paid to make sure we're not really falling way behind?
We didn't do that.
We did that
this
last year
time.
when Steve was
Yeah,
hired.
right.
Yeah.
I think that might be worthwhile to at least consider in the future,
Yeah.
because
I-
that information would be the best information available, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I know in other agencies that I was involved with, we used to do that on I figure it was like a biennial basis, and we actually had a consultant that came in and evaluated everybody's positions to see if they were, need adjustment and so forth, but that's something else for another day. But you have a good point about the.
That would be fair not only to the Bristol County Water Authority, but also to Steve.
Okay.
I just completed year 2 here.
I didn't.
I just completed year 2.
Oh,
You
Here.
too.
So next year, my contract's up.
I thought you were here forever, like the chair.
Size of the game.
I'll become a free agent.
All right, so we've
Such a
dealt,
good guy, Steve.
we've dealt with the
I
raised
thought it was a
portion
year
of
ago,
this.
so.
So we dealt with the raised portion of this item. As I was mentioning, the other thing that's in here is with regard to goals. And there are a number of really good additional goals that may need to be put in here. I'm going to suggest that what we'll do is, John and myself as Personnel Committee, we'll meet with Steve and we'll come up with something probably for the next meeting.
Have any members, if they have any additional ones, send them in to
Can
Laura.
I just bring up one which is, I think is really important? It's up right on the list here. Agreements with Pawtucket may be necessary to be defined as well, because I've never been sure in my own mind. And here we go, we're spending all this money, but do we have anything in writing with Pawtucket?
I added that, George. I added that.
I mean, that's just critical.
My recollection is we do, but we certainly should be sure of it.
I don't think, from what I've heard, it was just sort of a verbal thing. And you have a situation, right now we have a lot of water, and the reservoir situate's probably at an all-time high, but that could quickly change. And suppose it changes, and everybody wants to go to Pawtucket to get it, and we don't have anything in writing. And we spent all this money. I mean, to me,
I agree, I think it's
super
important,
critical.
and I included that in my goal.
I think that it's super critical, because I've just heard there's some type of verbal. And a verbal, I'm not a lawyer, I mean, Tom can talk about
Verbal is
verbal.
worth nothing, but I thought we had a commitment that they had ample water to
Is it
supply
open?
X million gallons.
Okay.
I've never seen anything in writing, and I think,
Okay,
Writing, no.
your point is well taken. Let's move on with the agenda.
Gets complicated. We can agree to take a.
We've dealt with the personnel,
well, I mean, you don't want to spend.
it works.
Fireman ready.
I'm sorry, we have an agenda we want to get through. I want to try to keep everybody's discussions focused. We've got your point, we've got everybody's point. We can now move on to the next item. I talked about what we're going to do with regard to the goals. We've actually, 16 and 15 have been covered. All we have to do now is schedule the next meeting.
Well,
Did I miss something?
February 23rd?
Yep.
You're not trying to keep the public well informed by ignoring his question.
I know what his question is.
The
and I
public
know
doesn't know the answer.
I'm sorry, but we're not going to entertain discussions with the public at this point in the meeting.
Well, you should.
I'm trying to keep the meeting focused and moving forward. I understand his point really well, and we're going to have discussions about these points as we go forward over the year and more. But I think we've exhausted the subject of the executive director's performance review, salary, and annual goals. Have we not?
Yes. Yes.
The next scheduled meeting is for February 23rd. And now do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.